Welcome back, everybody, to the OPT Network. Our guest this morning is none other than Holli Conway, Miss Louisiana 2018. She joins us to talk about her journey through pageantry and the Miss America pageant. Holli, good morning and welcome.
Good morning. How are you?
Grateful to have you this morning. Your story is so inspiring, which I think that every young girl should tap into your journey, and not only young girls and young women, but all women. I want to rewind back to that young girl, that young woman that says, I'm going to try a pageant. Somebody that was not on the pageant scene, didn't have pageantry in your view. How did that happen for you?
Well, I was very reluctant. I tell the story all the time. A lot of people do know it, but I was performing at our school pageant, Miss Lady of the Bracelet. I went to Northwestern, and I was tapping.
In Natchitoches, Louisiana.
Yes, ma'am, in Natchitoches, Louisiana. So I was like the side act. I would come out in between the competition, and I performed with this group called Make Your Own Theater, and by tap class. And so I was there, and at the end of the pageant, some people came up to me and said, "You should compete in a pageant." And I was like, no, I shouldn't. I don't do that. Because, of course, I had all these stereotypes that other people have on pageantry. And
what were some of those stereotypes for you?
It was just that pretty. Okay, so my best friend was Miss Lady of the Bracelet and gave away her crown that year. We weren't best friends at the time, though. At the time, she was the other girl in my class who looked like me, but was just like the girly girl version of me. So she's in class and she's gorgeous all the time. If she breaks a sweat, it's like dab, dab, dab. And I'm just thinking, okay, this girl is a princess. Like, we're complete opposite. And I just thought that wasn't me. I'm not the girl who's just pretty and wears makeup and dresses up every day. I'm a tomboy. You know, I like to wear sweatpants. Every day in college, I wore sweatpants. I don't know if I wanted a day without sweats on in college. And I kind of had the stereotype. And then I got to know her. And she was
How did that happen? How did you get to know her?
Honestly... It was, she was sitting next to me playing Flappy Bird one day, and I looked on her phone.
What? Flappy Bird?
I kid you not. Her name is Bree Collier. She was actually third runner-up at Miss Louisiana my second year competing. So she was on her phone playing Flappy Bird, and in my head, I'm like, this girl is good at everything. I'm terrible at Flappy Bird, and she's good at Flappy Bird. And I say something to her, and at that point, we just got close, and we figured out we had to stick together. I mean, and we go for the same roles. We had to stick together. So we're still best friends to this day.
But wait, I want you to stop there, because with girls, young women at your age and women in general, there's always sort of that competitive spirit and that comparison. How did you get past the fact that she was always pretty? If she broke a sweat, dab, dab. How did you get past that to just say something to her?
It was hard because we did have both of us, both sides. She told me when you go into Northwestern in the theater department, you have to put on a show when you first arrive, just to kind of say, it's called New Faces. So they get to know the freshmen. And her best friend gave me the song that she sings all the time to sing. And she told me, she said, I remember sitting in the audience thinking, who is this girl singing my song? And she can't sing. That was her thought. And then when she walked into my top class, I was like, who is this girl with makeup in a dance class? She's going to sweat that off. So we both did.
She's going to sweat that off.
Black girls, curly hair. We look alike. Every time we're on stage together, you can't tell which one is which. So we did have that. It's natural. It's very natural, especially for women, to have that competitive feel in you. But when you start lifting each other up, that's when you get there. So I hope she doesn't get mad because I'm getting personal, but she was in a relationship with a guy I was friends with, and they broke up. And once they broke up, I was kind of there for her. Mm-hmm. I guess I'm a bad friend to the guy because I kind of went there for her. And we got close to that because I realized that she's human. Just no matter how good at Flappy Bird she is, she's just as human as I am. And she goes through things and she needs people there. And so we kind of bonded over that breakup and got closer. And we were just there for each other through college. We needed to be.
Did that experience on your journey, did that stop you in many ways comparing yourself and thinking that you knew a girl or lady before you really knew her?
It did. It helped me a lot with putting on stereotypes of different types of people. We all have our archetypes, and it's hard for performers because we live by our archetype, because we want to know what type of person we are so we know what type of person to audition for. So we dwell on archetypes, and it's hard to separate archetypes from stereotypes. But being with her, and she is also one of my friends who got me involved in pageantry because I said she did pageants and always said, Holly, you'd be great at them. You'd be amazing. And I told her I wouldn't. But when I got into the pageant world and threw away my stereotype and standing on the Miss Louisiana stage with doctors and lawyers and scientists and all these amazingly smart women, it just throws away any other preconceived notion that you have about people. Wow. So pageants helped a lot with that.
And so leading up to pageantry and becoming a pageant girl or participating in pageants, you hadn't participated in any pageants, and then you start winning, but you don't necessarily win the big prize. How do you deal with the emotion of that? Something that you didn't really want, but certainly after you start competing, you start to want.
Yeah, I do. I have a very competitive mind. I come from a family of athletes, and the Miss Louisiana at the time was actually a pole vaulter at LSU.
A pole vaulter.
She was a pole vaulter at LSU, and she was just like me. I mean, I went to Miss Louisiana my second year, and the Miss Louisiana at that time wasn't an athlete. She was a theater girl, and she went to all of her events, makeup, always saw her in a nice dress. But the girl my first year, she was always in workout tights. Always in workout tights. And that was another reason I got involved, because she was always herself. And I related to that because I thought pageant girls were something and she was something else that I could relate to. So, yeah, I got involved in that, and I had this very competitive mind. My heart was set because once I was there, I don't do anything to lose. That's why my dad raised me. Don't do anything to lose. And after I did do Miss Louisiana, of course, I was very shocked at how far I got my first year because I was so confused, but it was just a lot to take in my first year. And I got to third runner-up. And after that, I wasn't going to do Miss Louisiana again. Every year I competed, I decided afterwards that I wasn't going to do it again.
Why?
It wasn't a goal that I had growing up. I didn't grow up thinking, I want to be Miss Louisiana. And the reason...
Did you even think it was possible that you could be Miss Louisiana? When did the possibility of, I might be able to do it?
I didn't know what Miss Louisiana was until college, until I became friends with Bree Collier, and she was competing in Miss Louisiana. And so I had no idea even what it was. I didn't know anything about pageants besides Miss Congeniality and Toddlers and Tiaras. So I knew nothing about it besides what my friends taught me once I got involved. It became a possibility once I talked to Lacey Sanchez, that Miss Louisiana. She was very persistent, if I can say so. After I performed in that pageant and they asked me to do the pageant, I said no. Lacey found my number from Bree and then texted my phone and said, you should really do a pageant. And her persistence really got me attracted to the organization. And after talking to her, after winning my local, it started to become a possibility that I could actually win it. But it wasn't, I didn't truly understand what the job was at that time.
Wow.
So I went to Miss Louisiana for different reasons my first year than I did my last year.
Let me get a break here, Holly, but when we come back, we'll talk about your reasons, and then we'll talk about Miss Louisiana winning the title and what Miss Louisiana really is and what's expected. Stay on point. We're back after this. Welcome back, everybody, to the OPT Network. Our guest this morning is Holli Conway. She is Miss Louisiana 2018, and I'm going to tell you, if she can't inspire you, I don't think anything will. Holli, you are truly, truly an inspiration to so many because you speak to all of our possibilities. You know, most girls and even women feel like you have to be a certain type of woman or girl to be in a pageant. And I think you crushed that stereotype. Did you realize you were crushing it when you were crushing it?
I didn't. I did not realize I was crushing anything. I was just being myself. And I didn't realize that was a struggle for some people to just be themselves, because that's something that I had to form as a performer. I mean, my job is to basically be judged. I audition every day. My job is for other people to tell me what they think about me. And my dad taught me something that I never forgot when I was a little kid. And he always said, you can't listen to everyone's compliments, which I thought was interesting. And I was like, I love
everybody's compliments. Okay.
Yeah. And he says, if you build your confidence off of what other people think are great about you, you're going to build your insecurities off of what other people think is bad about you.
Wow.
So my confidence doesn't come from what anyone thinks about me. My confidence comes from what I know about myself.
And so were you able to understand that when he said that to you? Or did it take some time for that to kind of soak in?
It took time. So my dad is a minister and a motivational speaker. So we used to get a lot of speeches growing up. And when you're a kid, you're just like, oh, Dad, I just want to go to my room.
Not another speech, Dad.
Not another speech. And so my dad taught me a lot of things that came into play once I got older. Mm-hmm. And as I got onto more stages and I would hear, I wasn't always, Holli, you sound great. And yes, so I won talent at Miss America, but it wasn't always, Holli, you have a great voice. And at that point, I had to figure out if I was going to base my singing talent off of when other people think I'm good, or if I'm going to base it off of if I know I'm put on this earth to sing. Because the same people who think you sound great one day will say you sound terrible the next day. So. And
did you know in your knower that you were put on this earth to sing, even though nobody in your family did?
Yes, that was one thing I was sure of. I always knew I wanted to be a singer. And it was just, I'm not a very emotional person. And the only way I can portray my emotions or relate to other people's emotion is through music. And so I always knew it was just this connection I had to that. It was such a passion, and feeling that and doing what I love is just something that I want everyone to be able to feel, which is why I came up with my platform.
Amazing. And so as you journey on this path to Miss Louisiana, you don't win the first time, you don't win the second time. How do you power up to do it for yet a third time?
It was very spur of the moment. Every time I did Miss Louisiana was very spur of the moment. After I lost Miss Louisiana the second time, I was first runner-up. I immediately flew to Germany to study. I graduated from college.
You flew to Germany?
I flew to Germany the day after the next. So the next day I went home and packed, and then the next morning I was on a flight to Germany.
Wow.
And I studied musical theater there. But in my mind, I graduated from college. It's time to get a job. Miss Louisiana was something that came into my life that was new, but obviously it wasn't for me because I did it and the time was right. Excuse me. So I went away and I got a job. I started working. I was just not coming back at all. It was not even a remote option in my mind to come back and compete for Miss Louisiana this year. But I went and I watched the pageant. So I watched Miss Louisiana 2017. And as I sat in the audience, it was the crowning night. I just had this little distant voice in my head that said that I wasn't done, that I should come back. And there are reasons that I wanted to come back. And there are things that I wanted to see changed in Louisiana that I knew if I wanted to do it, I had to do it myself. Be the change you want to see. I didn't want to leave my state feeling unsettled about things when I knew I could change them. And so there was a pageant that next week. Once again, I had 1 week to get ready for a pageant. There was a pageant that next week, and I competed in that pageant, looking burnt from my cruise that I was just on and thick from the free food that I was eating. So I was completely out of practice, but I did that pageant and I said, God, if this is my time, then it will happen. And I won that pageant, and 2 days later I flew away to work, and I was back on the ship for most of the year until I came back and competed and won.
And for those people who don't know, you worked on a cruise ship entertaining people on one of the cruise lines.
I was on Carnival Sunshine for the year that I was getting ready to compete for Miss Louisiana.
Mm-hmm. And then so you come back for the third time. What's your frame of mind, and how do you prepare yourself mentally for doing it yet a third time?
Well, there was a great peace that came over me for this year. It was kind of a feeling of, if this happens, then it was meant to happen and it would be amazing. And if it doesn't happen, I'm going to be okay. So when I came home from my cruise ship, I went to a workshop in New York and I auditioned for a few agencies, and I signed with a talent agency. I was set to move to New York after Miss Louisiana. So I was making plans for what was going to happen after Miss Louisiana if I didn't win, not because I didn't think I would win, but because I had this peace over me that whether or not I Miss Louisiana, I'm going to do something great. I'm going to continue to follow my dreams. I'm going to continue to build my career.
Mm-hmm. Now, is your family supporting this effort again for the third time, or are they saying, do you think you really should?
Well, definitely my mom and my grandma and my sisters mostly my mom and my grandma were begging me to come back to Miss Louisiana. And that entire year I was saying, I'm not coming back. I'm done. There's no point in me being in Louisiana for a year. Like, I've graduated from college. I've started to work. I'm in the work field. I've graduated 3 years ago almost. So it was like, I saw no point in me coming back to Louisiana. It wasn't going to benefit me. And then it just happened to work out. So my family was very, very supportive. My dad, I think, finally jumped on board when I won Miss Louisiana.
And your dad said what about this whole pageant thing, though? Because y'all are athletes.
Yeah, we're athletes. And he also knows that I want to be on Broadway. And he's very goal-driven. You know, my dad was in the Olympics. So all he saw was
two-time Olympian.
Two-time Olympic medalist. He has a bronze and a silver. So his entire life, all he saw was him on the podium winning a medal. And when I told him I wanted to be on Broadway, all he saw was me on the stage on Broadway. And so I called him and said, Dad, I think I'm going to do a pageant this weekend in Monroe. And he said, how is that going to get you to Broadway? So that was kind of.
And how did you answer? What did you say when he said that?
Honestly, I don't remember, because at that time I didn't know much about the organization. So I didn't see the benefits that would come from it. And so I don't even know what I told him. I just said, Daddy, it won't hurt anything. Marissa wants me to do it with her. It's in Monroe. It's just 1 week. If I lose, it's 1 week of my life. If I win, then I win some scholarship money. So At that time, I still wasn't completely on board myself. The first pageant I did, I don't think I was on board until after I won that pageant and I realized I was going to Miss Louisiana. So my family is very supportive in anything I do.
And so when you win that third time, what is that moment like when you are crowned Miss Louisiana?
It was an amazing moment. It felt like it was meant to be. It didn't really feel like a shock. Like I never thought this would happen, because once I saw myself being crowned Miss Louisiana so many times before it happened. I'm a big visual person. I had a vision board it's so corny, but I had like a picture of my face with the Miss Louisiana crown on.
It's not corny at all. I love that.
I'm totally that person. And I would just close my eyes. And I think it's something I get from my dad, because he used to do it. I would close my eyes and replay that moment over and over again. So when I actually won Miss Louisiana, it was like I was watching a movie that I watch every day. Wow. So it was like I knew it was a possibility.
Let me get a quick break here, but when we come back, we're going to talk about Holli's platform, and we're going to talk about her beautiful curly hair, beautiful natural curly hair. Stay on point. We're back after this. Welcome back, everybody, to the OPT Network. Our guest this morning, none other than Miss Louisiana, Holli Conway, taking us on her journey, but really peeling back those layers of what it takes when you have a vision and a dream to walk through that process and see it to completion. So you win Miss Louisiana. Now on that journey, you don't change anything about yourself, most especially your natural curly hair. How does that play in a group and in an organization that is so driven by how you look?
I think it did help me stand out, but in the best possible way. On my onstage question at Miss Louisiana, they asked what style would be my unique approach to the job of Miss Louisiana. And I remember I said diversity and authenticity, because it was very important for me that other girls knew that this was an attainable goal. As much as I wanted to be that entity, that great Miss Louisiana, and, she's kind of on a pedestal and she's something you can look up to, I wanted to make sure girls knew that they could be Miss Louisiana too. So I tried to be very transparent, and I try to be as authentic as possible all the time so that other people can find ways to relate to me. There's so many.
So were there people, Holli, telling you, maybe you should straighten your hair?
There were a lot of people. People like to throw in their 2 cents. I've had people tell me not to eat during Miss Louisiana week, not to drink water, only take your vitamins, to get my hair dyed because they'll take points off for it. People have asked me to straighten my hair. I've had people ask me to do a lot of things because everyone wants to put in their 2 cents, but it's good to take what you need and then leave whatever else.
Absolutely. Did you internalize any of that? Did you say, well, what's wrong with my hair? Why should I straighten my hair? Does it make you a little bit insecure?
It never did, because I knew that there were girls who looked up to Miss Louisiana and had yet to find a Miss Louisiana that they could relate to. And the only reason I decided to do Miss Louisiana is because the Miss Louisiana at a time was an athlete and a tomboy, and I related to her. And I knew it was important for Miss Louisiana to be someone that little girls can say, I can be her. And as much as she is someone I can look up to, and she is great in this, talented, smart, beautiful, whatever she is, I know that I can do that if I work hard for it. And so it means a lot to me that people can find ways to relate to me. I get this all the time at my events, and it really keeps my year going. It gives me energy. It keeps me going as Miss Louisiana. But little girls will look at me and say, hey, you look like me. Mm. I get all the time. I get messages from parents who say they put Miss Louisiana's picture up in your room because they say you have hair like her. And that's never happened before. They've never seen a Miss Louisiana that they could look at and say, hey, you look like me. I know in December, I got LASIK. That's one of our sponsors. We got LASIK, and I wasn't able to wear contacts for 2 weeks. And they said, you can just take your glasses off for pictures. But I didn't, because I thought there's going to be some little girls out there with glasses who are going to say, hey, Miss Louisiana wears glasses too. And that's going to mean the world to them. I mean, it's simply just wearing glasses, but knowing that, oh, somebody who is a picture of beauty or who is a beauty queen wears these glasses. I can relate to them. I can be a beauty queen too. That means so much to me.
Wow. Do you have any idea the impact that you are making on not just women, but young girls and young girls of color? Do you have a sense of that?
I feel it a lot when people are really good at reaching out to me, and I love to respond to messages. I get a lot of them on Instagram. One little girl dressed up as me for Halloween. She did an exact replica of an outfit I had a sash, and then I took her out to dinner because I thought it was the cutest thing. So I do get a lot of messages from little girls and their moms that say, oh, my little daughter looks up to you, or even my son looks up to you. He wants to marry Miss Louisiana, and I just think it's the sweetest thing. Because, I mean, there's no point in anything that I do if I'm not inspiring someone to do something.
How does that security, where does that security come from, Holli?
The security of, how do you mean?
Of just being authentically you, not perming or straightening your hair, not, overly, making up, just being Holli. Where does that security come from?
I think my parents kind of instilled those values in me. I mean, my mom just had this silent, regal confidence all the time. Everyone just loves my mom. She's probably the most popular person I know. I've never heard anyone say a negative word about my mom. And then my dad is super outgoing, but he always instilled those little values. Like I said earlier, not valuing myself by what other people say. And I am always on stage. I mean, I'm a performer, excuse me, for a living.
And that could be hard because you're going to take a lot of criticism.
I do. I live to take criticism. That is my job, is to be criticized. And I had to learn over time how to take what I need and move on from what I don't need, because when you're in the spotlight, everyone is going to have a say on what they want you to do.
Mm-hmm. And so when you go to the Miss America pageant, is that beyond anything that you could have thought or imagined?
Miss America was amazing. And there was a lot going on that year. There was a lot of controversy, and I think it made the Miss America girls closer. We're actually going on a vacation in 2 weeks together, so we're having a little reunion, but it was...
Are you talking about the swimsuit controversy?
Yeah, there was a swimsuit controversy with the new leadership. There was just a lot going on. And a lot of the girls, we all kind of went in there blind. I mean, there were things that we didn't know about until we got there, until right before competition, until we got on stage. So we were on our toes, but it made us a lot closer. And it reminded me why I do the job. And Miss America did. That was what Miss America did for me. It reminded me why I do the job, because it's not for the 2 hours I spend on stage competing in a pageant. It's for the countless hours I spend out in the world inspiring people and serving my state. And that has nothing to do with what you do on stage. So what you do on stage is just to pick a winner. And once you have that winner, all our jobs go back to being the same way.
Sure. Hence your platform. Talk about your platform for yourself and for Louisiana.
My platform is Inspire. And if you notice, I talk about my job a lot. I talk about being on stage because it's this burning passion that I have inside to be a performer. And there's no better feeling for me than to do what I love for a living. And I want everyone to have that feeling. My dad taught us growing up that our gifts will make way for us. It's one of my favorite scriptures. So everything you have, everything you need to succeed, you already have in you. I always say, there's a quote, we are equally distributed talent, but we're not equally distributed opportunity. So you need to use your talents and use your skills that you have to make a way for you to get to where you want to be.
Absolutely.
So I use I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I use my platform to teach people how to do that, not necessarily just inspire them. A lot of times you can get a motivational speech, you can get an inspirational speech, but after that emotion goes away, you're really left with nothing. So I try to give them tangible things that they can use to follow their dreams.
And let's talk about those tangible things, because you're absolutely on point. After the emotion is gone, people are left with the thoughts in their head. How are you going to do that? I could never do that. And all of the negativity. How do you help people to root all of that out, especially young people, to go on and excavate those talents so that they can make room for them?
So I say discover, develop, display. Or for the kids, I say know, grow, show. And the very first step, you will not be successful until you know what you want to be successful in, which seems redundant or seems like common sense, but I didn't become successful as a vocalist until I was 100% sure that that's what I was put on this earth to do. And as long as I had those things, those fears holding me back, I wasn't able to fully give myself to the job. And so there are a lot of people who have these talents and they're not sure what they want to do with them. So the first step is to know what you want to do and know your options. So recently I took the hospitality, restaurant, and tourism students at University of New Orleans. I took them on a cruise ship tour for one day so they could see the job of a hotel director on a cruise ship, because it expands your opportunities. It shows you that, oh, I don't just have to work at a restaurant. I just have to work at a hotel. I could also do this. Right. So there's a lot of different things that you could do with your talents that you wouldn't even think of.
Sure.
And then it goes to dedicating yourself to that and really teaching yourself how to stay dedicated, because it's so easy when someone is motivating you. But when you have to motivate yourself, it gets a lot harder.
And so options is really important because a lot of young people don't necessarily understand their options. How do you help them explore that?
One, you have to show them what there is out there. And not many of us have the opportunity to leave Louisiana and go out there and see. I don't remember if I said this, but when I was in senior in high school, I went on a cruise, and that was my first cruise ever. And I sat in the audience and said, oh, I can do that. And then my first job out of college was to work on a cruise ship. But I would have never known about that if I didn't have the chance to leave Louisiana and go on that cruise and know that that was an opportunity that I could even have. So it's all about exposure. Sure. Looking up, getting interested and searching how many ways. Oh, I want to be a doctor, but do I have to be a doctor at a hospital? Can I be a travel doctor? Can I be a doctor for the Army? You really have to research what you can do and how you can do it.
Sure. And so as you move into the next phase of your life, what are you hoping will happen for yourself? What are your next dreams?
Broadway. I'm hoping I'll be on Broadway.
I bet you absolutely will. And when you're on Broadway, you have to promise to come back and share with us that moment and that time when you start to see even more manifestation of your dreams and your gifts. Make room for you.
Yes, ma'am. I promise. That is my goal. I can't wait to be up there and work.
Indeed. Holli, thank you so much. Thank you for your spirit, your authenticity, and your heart. You have been absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody, stay on point. We're back right after this. Welcome back, everybody, to the OPT Network. This is the final point on point. I'm going to tell you one thing. Holli Conway, Miss Louisiana 2018, she is awe-inspiring. And she's awe-inspiring because she decided on this journey to be her authentic self. She said, you know what? I was an athlete. I was a track star. I wasn't the pageant girl. And then along the way, she was convinced that she should participate in pageants. And she started. She didn't know what to expect. But what she did do is she decided that she wouldn't allow people to dictate how she looked. She wouldn't change her hair or herself for the competition. And I think that's the beauty of it. She competed not once, not twice, but 3 times before she actually won the crown of Miss Louisiana. And I think that that should speak volumes, not just to young people, but to all people, that possibility exists. And it exists when you try and when you don't quit. But what I love is she talked about visualization and having a vision board. And I have a vision board, and I have seen so many things that I thought not possible, but saw them in my mind, but just continued. And she is encouraging young people especially. And I think everybody should have a vision board, because before you can attain anything, you have to see it here in your mind. And then you have to take that trek, that climb into the high place of your thinking. And you have to combat those fears. You have to combat those voices that say, oh, you're a tomboy. You're not a pretty girl who wears makeup all the time. You're not a girly girl, or whatever those voices are saying to you. You gotta go up in your mind, and then you have to beat those thoughts down. I don't agree with being in agreement with those thoughts. I believe some experts say, you have to embrace those thoughts. I don't agree with that. I think that you have to cast those thoughts down, and you have to replace those thoughts with empowering thoughts. And then you've got to do the work. And it takes courage to do the work. And she had to have a lot of courage to compete 3 times. And she said, I heard that distant voice for that 3rd time to say that it would be okay and this would be my time. And I wondered, how many times do people leave not just titles or pageants, because, the pageant is so much bigger than a pageant. Yeah, the pomp and circumstance of the pageantry, but there's scholarship monies. There are other opportunities to serve your state and your city. And I wonder how many people leave opportunities on the table because we're just too afraid. And she said it. She said, my dad always said to us, don't take criticism to heart. Take what you need from that and leave the rest. So many people allow what others say and think to stop them cold in their tracks. And I'm going to tell you, if you're doing that, today might be the day that you say, you know what? I'm big enough, I'm strong enough, and I trust in something higher and greater than myself to begin to excavate those gifts and talents. Let me tell you something. God didn't create anything arbitrarily. He gave each and every one of us gifts and talents, and they are for the earth realm. And what I love about Holli's authentic self is she said, now she competed in Miss America and she placed 2nd. And she said this, she said, Miss America empowered me to embrace my beauty as an extension of everything that I am. So many of us, especially women, we feel like we have to meet the standard of beauty that the world says is beautiful. She said people were telling her, look, don't eat, don't drink any water, it's going to make you bloated. You need to straighten your hair, you need to dye your hair, any number of things that she needed to do. And when you start, getting this thing done and that thing done because society says that this is the way that you should look, it really chips away at your authentic self, because we begin to say, maybe that's not good enough. Maybe being true to who I am is not enough. And it takes courage to stand and say who I am, the way that I wear my hair, the way that I choose to present myself is absolutely enough. And she has done that and continues to do that on this journey. And I said to her at the end of the show, I can't wait to see what God has next for her. She is a bright light, blazing a trail, not only in Louisiana, but I believe that she will blaze a trail around the world because she is committed to understanding that she's good enough and that her gifts and her talents, just like your gifts and your talents and my gift and my talents, will make room for you and for me. And that's why we have these conversations. Her platform is quite simply inspire, but not just through lip service and great speeches, but really helping people to be inspired with the tangible, with their options, things that broaden our horizons. Oftentimes, our kids and people don't excel because they negate the options. They fail to tap into the options. I'm super excited about Holli's possibilities as well as all of ours. We're out of time for now, everybody. This has been the final point on Point. Stay with us. We're back to wrap right after this.